My name is Jorunn Froyen. I'm curator at the Jærmuseet, and in this presentation, I want you to join me to the beginning of the 20th century, to the years between 1910 and 1920, when Norwegian farmers started using pesticides to kill insects and fungi and weed. In this decade, farmers had to learn about pesticides, how the spraying equipment worked, how to avoid their harmful effects, and at the same time, they had to have an understanding of both the chemicals and the species the chemicals were targeted at. I'm going to take you to Rogaland County, situated at the southwest of Norway by the North Sea. In the second decade of the 20th century, farmers were growing grain, mainly oat, potatoes, vegetables, fodder for the livestock, and some fruit and berries. Today, as you see, it is grassland. I will talk about how agricultural experts established sites of miracle, camouflaged as outdoor laboratories to persuade farmers to use chemicals, how these sites of miracle were designed and established, and how they worked. The first chemical introduced against weed was iron sulfate. Sulfuric acid and cyanamide came a few years later from 1916. Sulfuric acid became very popular and was widely used in cornfields in Rogaland. This picture is from a textbook from 1911 and shows how the acid were handled in an ideal situation. Sulfuric acid isn't easy to handle. Often, the spraying equipment didn't work properly, it leaked, acid would destroy clothes and cause painful wounds. Therefore, it is not hard to believe that farmers had to be persuaded to make use of these chemicals. Who were these experts or agricultural improvers? They were men, most of them educated at our Norwegian Agricultural University. On national level, they were two in 1910, one entomologist and one weed expert. From 1919, three, as a state mycologist was hired. They were not isolated in a Norwegian context, but stayed in contact with their peers abroad. At the picture to the right, it is our state entomologist and state mycologist attending a plant protection conference in Copenhagen in 1922. On the left side is a weed specialist in the middle, with his two colleagues in Rogaland County at his side. The text says, "The weed apostle and his two helpers in Rogaland." His title, Weed Apostle, is telling. He was really a missionary in front of the national war against weed. His two helpers got assistance from agronomists in some of the municipalities from 1917. To conclude, there were a network of agronomists working to solve a steadily growing weed problem, a problem caused by the use of more fertilizers, monocultures, and new farming methods. The entomologist was collaborating with a horticulture specialist in the county, dealing with problems due to insect and fungi in vegetable, fruit, and berry production. How did they persuade? Agricultural experts on national level had already initiated collaboration with local farmers to be able to test different plants and seeds. It was necessary, due to Norwegian geography, to explore which plants gave best results under local conditions. Outdoor laboratories where such testing could be done had already existed for several years in Rogaland, and there was also an understanding that by being able to demonstrate what was right and what was wrong, agriculture experts could persuade farmers to change their practice. In 1915, the first test comparing different types of techniques for removing weed were performed in the county. They were designed in collaboration with the national weed expert and based on his knowledge from previous trials. It was a success, concluded the country agronomist. The following year, 5 sites were chosen, scattered in the county, and all of them beside roads where farmers were passing. Masters of spraying were hired, and knowledge on how chemicals and plants were interacting were moved to these sites where an outdoor laboratory was set up. But the intention was not to investigate, it was to design sites for dissemination of best solutions for weed control. Agricultural experts did this by making a theater performance, furnishing the state as a laboratory, and thus making use of science as a warrantor of truth. Our agronomists had earlier experienced how such states were working, and our national weed expert had even experienced that they were particularly successful in these cases. He had seen in other counties that the audiences perceived the chemicals as agents of miracle. However, a laboratory is typically set indoor where conditions are controlled and the people working there are trained experts. This was only pretending to be a laboratory, and things did go wrong. At some sites, there even was more weed growth after spraying than where chemicals had not been used. The explanation was obvious, the experts reported. The spraying master had done something wrong and the weather was not suitable this year. By circulating this as truth, our experts took the cause of failure from chemicals and gave it to the weather and the farmer. By arranging the dissemination like a laboratory, the leading experts were able to present their notions of interactions between cultivated plants, weeds, chemicals, visiting species, and inorganic materials as scientifically proven fact. Their message was perceived as the truth, and it worked. In the years after, more such laboratories were designed and established around the county. At these sites, where experts were stage directors, farmers could drive by, stop, and see with their own eyes what miracles the poisons were able to perform. They could meet peers, like they are doing on this big site in 1964, discuss what they were seeing, conclude, and maybe try the same at their own farm. The results were documented and men placed in the fields to illustrate the effects, and photos were taken. This documentation could circulate to other arenas like textbooks or reports. The pictures is from 1961. Here we see a potato field where Maneb, a fungicide, had been used. The man at the left was standing in the part where the chemicals had been used, the other in the non-sprayed area. The photo is also documenting what they were looking for. How well was the potato plant doing? Other interactions were not seen. Maneb has low persistence. It has a breakdown product which has been found in spinach, carrots, and potatoes. It helps a lot to wash the vegetables. This is not shown in the documentation of this experiment. While earlier courses had been held indoor, farmers later in decennia were invited to join courses where they were visiting farms together with experts. This picture was taken in 45 years later and illustrates how knowledge was circulating on such sites. We see the county agronomist to the other left watching the stage. The thin rope is indicated that this is a field where an outdoor laboratory is constructed. The spraying equipment that the issue is pesticides. The year 1961 and the place, grassland, indicated that this is a hormone type of herbicides. They are all looking at equipment while a young boy is talking, the solver of the problems. Then to the troublesome insects. The state's entomologist traveled to the West Coast area in the summer of 1913. Here he is studying some apple trees, where fruit growers had been using chemicals against different insects and fungi for several years. Still, insects and fungi did not disappear. The state entomologist was not able to design outdoor laboratories like his colleague, the weed apostle. Insects were unpredictable and no miracles were shown to farmers. And farmers did not use chemicals to eradicate insects in their fields in Rogaland in the years between 1910 and 1920. Maybe because no laboratories or sites of miracle were established showing how well these chemicals worked.